The Indianapolis Colts defense could use a major facelift this offseason, and we're going to give you the primer for the Colts to do it. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Colts podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network around. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com and your favorite, sickly co-host these last couple days and couple weeks here. It's been a rough winter for me, everybody. I've been struggling with my nasally voice, but I hope you guys at home are loving the new sound that I'm giving you guys here. And I'm joined, as always, by Jake Arthur, our boots on the ground at Round Table Sports as well. And yesterday, we gave you guys our offseason primer when it came to the Colts offense. Today, we're doing the same thing for the Colts defense. We're going to talk about in-house free agents, guys who are actually under contract, and then expectations for the Colts defense. And that is assuming that they do make some of these major additions and facelifts, like I said, to the defense, because as it stands right now, going into next season with the current roster on defense, would not bode very well for the Colts. But we're going to get into it today. And Jake, unlike offense, where it was kind of like two significant free agents and then a bunch of guys that, take them or leave them, essentially the rest of the offensive roster, on defense, there's a handful of guys who played a significant amount of snaps that are set to hit free agency. And honestly, Jake, it wouldn't shock me if none of these unrestricted free agents are back for the Colts.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list here, and when you look at guys who were super productive and need to be brought back or fit the younger, faster thing that Chris Ballard said, the cupboard's kind of bare there. You look at Nick Cross, and that's really the only guy where you're like, yeah, it'd be a good idea to bring him back, but not at $15 million per year or something. You know what I mean? Yes, the salary cap is going to jump over $20 million more dollars, but you already needed, number one, you needed that nice little bump there for Alec Pierce and Daniel Jones, but you also still need to kind of clear some of your own cap with existing players. So a safety, I don't know if they super fit into that mold right now, if they're going to be too expensive. We have seen the Colts kind of relent and let some guys go that they really didn't want to because they got outpriced by competitors with Dio Adengbo and Will Fries last year. That kind of feels like what could happen with Nick Cross this year. He's got some warts in coverage, but he's still a very young ascending player who's been one of the most consistent players for the Colts defense for a little while now. So I could see why the Colts would want him at the right price, but I could see why other teams would want him too. If there are already high-level defenses that think they could plug in a nice, strong safety to become a championship caliber defense, I'm throwing money at him because, how physical players who can tackle well from the secondary, how well that meshes into high-level defenses.
Yeah, and it's difficult to have that blend of youth and experience. 24 years old with over 2,000 defensive snaps in his career, that's very, very difficult to find on the open market, which is why I think he's going to get closer to that Trayvon Moore type contract that we saw Moore get around $15 million per year last year than something lower than that. And also when you factor in the Colts, I know not every team does this, but I'm assuming the Colts operate in some kind of capacity of this way, is you kind of want to spread your money fairly evenly across the roster. You don't want to put every single dollar you have into the secondary and then have to go cheap on the D-line and vice versa. You want to be able to spread it out. And when you look at the Colts secondary, highly paid contracts to Kenny Moore, Mooney Ward, Sauce Gardner is feasible contract this next season, but still around $10 million per year, and Cameron Bynum. Those are all big contracts in the secondary. It's hard to add another big contract to that secondary when you're already paying all these guys so much money. So I think the Colts are going to give him an offer. I think it'll probably be in that $6 to $8 million per year range. If the market is just not great for him, which we have seen it be like that in the past for safeties, I could see an avenue for him coming back, but I just don't know if it makes the most sense for either side right now. I think he was a good fit overall last year. Like, yeah, the coverage did just kind of go downhill a little bit in the second half of the season, but he was a chess piece for the defense. He was in the box over top, like did a lot of really fun things. And I still think he's a good player. So I would love to have him back. It's just difficult to make that money work, I think, with how much the Colts are going to have to put into the defensive line to improve it. So they don't have the benefit of rookie contracts where guys are like exceeding value on rookie contracts to where they can pay a player like Nick Cross because they got to pay other positions. So yeah, I don't see it happening, but we'll see. Like, the door is always open. I'm sure the Colts would want him back, but we'll certainly see there. But after Nick Cross, Jake, we kind of get into this territory of guys where, like, yeah, if you like a couple of these guys, like at the right price, if you can get him back, like a Neville Gallimore, I thought played pretty well. I don't think you're going crazy about bringing him back, like, because I don't think he's like this star player, this hidden gem player. Like, he was a solid fourth defensive tackle for you, but it's not going to kill you either way if he's back. Same kind of with Jermaine Pratt. He solidified the linebacker room, did some good things, but his pass coverage left a lot to be desired. And I think that there's an avenue to go younger at linebacker. But then we get to the defensive end trio of Kwity Paye, Samson Ebukam, and Tyquan Lewis, where, in my opinion, Jake, and I think you would want one of these guys back. Personally, I don't want any of these three guys back. I just don't. I don't see the value they brought last year. I thought all three of them took big steps back in Lou Anarumo's scheme. I think they were negative assets for most of the year. And I just think the Colts need to just revamp that entire room. And I would prefer not to have any of those three guys back.
No, I'm with you. I just think that they will be compelled to bring back like Tyquan Lewis. He seems like a lifer to me. You know how Brandon Graham keeps like retiring and coming back with the Eagles every
Brandon Graham's like a Hall of Famer though.
Right.
Like Tyquan Lewis is like a bottom of the roster.
But that's how they build up guys. They're Hall of Fame people, and that really resonates with them.
Why couldn't I get a contract from the Colts? I could have made like a decade-long career out of it.
Right? No, I mean, Tyquan is someone who is beloved in the building, but like as far as performance goes, Kwity Paye is an absolutely not for me at this point. Yeah. This was, as far as we know, the healthiest he's ever been, the most he's ever played, but was statistically his worst year. When they needed him the most, he kind of disappeared. Maybe he didn't fit into the defense. I don't know, but he had the same defensive line coach 2 years in a row. Samson Ebukam, we saw that one coming a million miles away, being over 30 with the Achilles. He had like 2 sacks, of course. And then Tyquan had like 3. And I think 2 of them were in one game. So it is time to move on. And kind of tying back to the Nick Cross thing, I just don't think there's going to be the money there because you have to throw a ton of money onto the defensive front, inside and out. Because we've talked about, Buckner and Grover are both going to be like 32 and Buckner's got the neck. Like there's so much money that has to be allocated to more important spots. Your front 7 just needs a facelift and safety maybe on the outside looking in. But yeah, you mentioned Jermaine Pratt. I love what he did for the Colts last year, but I think, they're ready to move on. He had some post on Instagram or something after the season that made it seem kind of final. It was more of like a thank you thing to Lou Anarumo. Gallimore had 3.5 sacks for the Colts. I would be pro bringing him back, but not many more. Cameron Mitchell is maybe fine if you want to bring him in to compete at corner and training camp. I don't have anything against that. Plus, he's an RFA, so really no big deal there. But yeah, outside of those guys on defense, I'm fine with letting the lot walk.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, the restricted free agents, I'm always in the camp of just bringing them back for the heck of it. Yeah. I mean, they're not going anywhere, so Cameron Mitchell and Shegu Alubi, especially with Alubi's play on special teams the last couple of years. I think he led the special teams and tackles again this season, had the blocked punt against the Raiders earlier in the season. So as long as Brian Mason says like, yes, I want Shegu Alubi back, cool, bring him back. Yeah. I don't care about the defense with that. He's a special teamer, very good player for them. Other names though, Jacob Phillips, who got hurt in training camp and didn't play at all this year. Eric Johnson in his comeback tour had under 100 snaps on defense. He was okay, I guess, but he just didn't play. Like, whatever. Like, again, right. If you bring him back on a vet minimum, that's fine. And then an interesting one, Jake, Rodney Thomas at safety. His play was better this season than what it had been the last couple years since his breakout rookie year. It didn't move me though. I don't think the ball skills are really there outside of on like those deep over the top passes. I would prefer just to get another safety in here. And honestly, Ruben Lowry, I think intrigues me a little bit more as a younger player, so it's like I'm fine with moving on from Rodney Thomas as well.
Yeah, I'm there with you. He hasn't done enough to be, to not see what the next guy could do. Ruben Lowry, perfect example. I've been intrigued by him, but he was a healthy scratch like the entire year. I at least want to see what he can do like in training camp because I have no gauge for what he plays like because we don't get to see the entire duration of practice during the season. And then you could say the same for Trey Washington as well. I know they're kind of intrigued by him. So one of those two guys, if they don't go find someone cheap in free agency or day 3 in the draft or whatever, go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure. But coming up, guys, we're going to look at this defensive roster. We're going to work from the hypothetical that pretty much all of these guys could be gone. What does the Colts defensive roster look like? And how many defensive ends do they need to add this offseason? That's what we're going to dive into next.
If you have ever hired someone who looked good on paper, but they just weren't the right fit, then you know how important it is to actually get that right. And when you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page, and it helps you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates even faster. Sponsored jobs boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a real difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement that it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed. All right, welcome back, players. And reminder that if you have not yet joined the Locked On Colts Everydayer Club, you got to do it because once the party stops here, it just carries right on over to the Everydayer Club. That Discord server has usually got something going on where Zach and I are both enjoying talking to the guys over there. But signing up for the Everydayer Club, you also get our audio ad-free plus that invite to the Discord server. Just go to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join. You could gift a subscription as well. Or if you just want to wait till after the show, go to the show notes. We'll have the link right there for you as well. All right, Zach. So let me just run through this defense real quick. Some of the main players who are actually under contract for 2026, because you're going to notice this whole thing is an asterisk, it seems, because it feels like some sort of red wedding event may be coming where like a lot of these guys, they're under contract now, but maybe that's not going to be the case. So your only notable defensive ends are Latu and JT Tuimoloau. We like Durrell and Chami, but it seems like just us being silly more than anything. DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart at tackle with Adetomiwa Adebawore. Tim Smith as well. Maybe he gets to crack backup nose tackle this year. They still need more, though, there, obviously. At linebacker, Zaire Franklin and Austin Ajike. I mean, you could say Jalen Carlies, but you could have said Jalen Carlies last year. And I am ready to tell you who I am super intrigued by at linebacker. It's the Canadian they signed recently, Devin Verasuk. When they signed him, I did probably too much research on him, and I'm intrigued. I'm ready to be heard again. I just want them to give him a chance. But then at corner, it's intriguing on paper. Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward Sr., Kenny Moore, Justin Walley, Mekhi Blackman, Jonathan Edwards. But, you throw in there that Jalen Jones is like a perfect trade candidate. Like the guy, even when healthy, couldn't buy playing time, even after playing really well against like DK Metcalf. And then safety is a little interesting as well. Cam Bynum, Hunter Wooler. And then you get to like Daniel Scott, Ruben Lowry, Trey Washington. Like, it's an interesting group that I think is going to look quite different over the next several months.
Yeah, no, the reins of Castamere are certainly playing when it comes to defensive end right now, because I think there's a perfect chance to gut that entire unit. Like we mentioned in the first segment, let those free agents walk. And really your only notable guys on the roster, Leatu Latu and JT Tuimoloau. And even then, like JT Tuimoloau was not a significant guy this
No.
past season. And I don't know how much Lou Anarumo is really like about him right now. So you have an opportunity to add 3 to 4 bodies to that defensive end room, whether it's free agency, whether it's the draft, whether it's both. I think they just needed to add as many bodies as possible at defensive end. And honestly, you can look across this roster on defense and say that there's a need to add at every position group. You know, defensive tackle, I'd still love to find a very good, like, sturdy backup backup nose tackle. You know, Grover Stewart led the NFL last year in zero tech snaps, like nose tackle snaps. Number 1 in the NFL, just under 100 nose tackle snaps. And I don't know if they have another guy, even if they were to bring back a Neville Gallimore, I don't think they'd have another guy who could still do that. You know,
No.
like Gallimore's not a nose tackle. So I wouldn't hate adding another like nose tackle guy in here, especially with Grover's ability to play some 3-tech on rundowns as well. I think he can do that. Linebacker, need a coverage guy who can play alongside Zaire Franklin. Obviously, Hunter Wohler can factor into this a little bit, but I want to get him out of a boot first before we talk positively about him. Like you mentioned at corner, Jake, it has a lot of great names, but there's the question marks with Mooney Ward, the question with Jalen Jones, and also kind of a question with Justin Walley, right? What he looks like coming off of the ACL injury. And then at safety, if Nick Cross walks, they need another strong safety. Again, Hunter Wohler might factor in there, but let's get the 7th round rookie out of a boot first before we talk about that. Luckily it seems to be a really good safety and linebacker draft for the Colts. They kind of timed that up perfectly, but you got to still hit on those draft picks if that's the avenue that you want to go about.
Yeah. Let me throw this to you, because on one hand, like, if you were a bottom of the depth chart guy last year, like, you have no business probably playing this next year, other than if you're a young guy. But are there any like lower depth chart guys who they could have even been like future deal guys? Does anyone on here like intrigue you? Because you've got the couple CFL guys. Ruben Lowry, someone we mentioned already. They have added a few linebackers since the season ended as well through future deals. Like, does anybody here do it for you as other than just like a competitive camp body?
You're like, please talk about my Canadian linebacker is what you're trying to say
no,
right now.
Even if you were like Viliami Fehoko Jr. is my guy. Like, we need, number one, it's our brand on the show.
It is our brand.
To root for the little guy. But like, does anyone on here do it for you as like a surprise at all?
I mean, I'm still intrigued by guys like Tim Smith and Ruben Lowry. I think those were guys that the Colts were high on last year. Smith, obviously on the practice squad the entire season. They spent a 6th round pick on him. Lowry, they didn't even expose him to waivers after claiming him. So there is certainly some intrigue there. I still don't want to give up on Jonathan Edwards. I still think the coverage was there. It's just like, find the ball in the air and there's something that he could do. But in terms of like, you know, other guys they signed, like guys like John Bullock and Devin Verasuk, I think are competing more for special teams roles, which are very, very important. Like, I'm not trying to downplay those roles, but I think we're going to see a lot of additions when it comes to this defense this offseason, especially from other teams in free agency.
Yeah, so everyone, Devin Verasuk, the CFL linebacker, he was like, I think the number 2 pick in the CFL draft, was their conference's like rookie of the year. Seems like he should be pretty decent in coverage, but like Zach said, that more than likely is going to manifest itself in him being a special teams player. I even reached out to someone on the team to be like, hey, is this anything or is this just a guy? And I didn't hear back about that. So
they looked at it and they were like, you degenerate, texting me about a CFL linebacker.
Like, Jake, it's 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Get out of here. No, but this is our chance to plant our flag on some of these guys to like say, here, I knew about them all along. But no, Bullock was, God, I want to say Texans maybe, but he was a special teams guy. Vaughn was with the Colts during the training camp. And then Carlisle's, like, it seems so random, but like maybe Jalen Carlisle if he's healthy, which he's not been in 2 years, but if he has a healthy like summer, maybe actually has more of a role than he ever has before.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might be the new Jelani Woods, but we'll see. I think that's kind of the route he's
Yeah.
going at this point, where it's like it would be really nice to have him in the rotation, but it's hard to really bank on that, after 2 seasons at this
Yeah.
point. So hopefully he can put it together, but it's hard to really count on that given the track record.
Yeah, without question. All right, so guys, what are expectations for this unit? Like, which ones are going to change the most? Which ones need to change the most? And if all goes well and like the Colts add what they need to, what should we expect from this defense as a unit as it compares to the rest of the league? We'll talk about that in just a moment. The winter games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events that you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports that you care about the most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast, speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. All right, welcome back, everydayers. We are talking Colts defense. So when you look at like the biggest needs on the Colts entire roster, most of them that reside on the defensive side: defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, assurance at corner, probably one more capable body and at safety, because Rodney Thomas is a free agent, Nick Cross is a free agent. So likely, let's just say Nick Cross probably doesn't make it. So I guess first, when do you address safety there? Like, do you go day 2 of the draft?
I think if you don't get Nick Cross back, it's probably more of a day 2 thing. I think you can get a veteran in free agency to, be a stopgap player if the draft doesn't fall the way you want it to. But yeah, it's probably a draft need. But then again, they might have so many other draft needs that it's hard to really say where you go with a certain position. But yeah, I think getting like a veteran on the open market that can play a little bit, a la, going back in history with Ballard, like the TJ Carey level of signing type player, like a 1 year, $2 to $3 million contract that can just fill a role for you. And then you go into the draft with that, I think makes the most sense for safety. But yeah, there's so many needs on defense. It's hard to really say which one you prioritize in the draft, because some of these you're going to have to hit hard and heavy in free agency to fill those gaps.
Yeah, one area I think I'd prefer to do the draft is linebacker. I think number one, Chris Ballard is pretty good at identifying linebackers in the draft, but they're kind of like running backs where you can find them just about anywhere. Like you could draft a linebacker late and they wind up starting for you. So that I'd probably go in the draft, get a capable guy in free agency as well, though, like someone so you're not solely relying on rookies. And that's whether or not Zaire Franklin is a Colt or not. Because if we're talking about positions that could become greater needs, we don't know if Zaire Franklin makes it, because they could make about $5 million this year by getting rid of that contract. Mooney Ward is probably the biggest what if, because like as of the end of the season, he had 1 foot in, 1 foot out. We think DeForest Buckner is going to play. But, Walley and Wooler, while you want to kind of rely on them, they're coming back from injury. So I would definitely keep looking in the draft for linebacker. One area where I would kind of kill the spider with a hammer is defensive line. Free agency, draft, throw all resources at it. You're not even trying to get it yet to the depth of like Philly last year or Seattle this year. You need it playable. It's not playable right now at all. It already wasn't good. It cannot be used to go into 2026 how it is right now. So you have to throw a ton of resources at the defensive line.
Yeah, when we talk about reliable pass rushers on this team going into next season, we can at least rely on the fact that Latu's solid.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can't go too much more above that right now, but Latu is solid. Outside of that, though, what else can we rely on when it comes to rushing the passer, right? DeForest Buckner, we have no clue what he's going to look like after the neck injury. The one game we saw with him, again, this was prior to surgery, but when he tried to gut it out against San Fran, he didn't look like DeForest Buckner anymore in that game. And then you have Adetomiwa Adebawore, who is a lot of flash, but the consistency still needs to be there with him. And you can hope that he takes a next year leap, especially going into a contract season. We know how contract seasons affect players, obviously. But that's not really something that you can fully rely on. So, when you're looking at like Seattle or Philly, right? Like you mentioned there, Jake, the teams that have won Super Bowls, it's not 2, 3, 4 guys that they could rely on to rush the passer. It was 5, 6, 8, they were deep. They were very deep pass rushing units. And as of right now with the Colts, like they're just so bare up front that I just think they need to throw as many resources as possible at the trenches, whether it's signing one or both of like an Ebiketie, Boy Mafe, heaven forbid a Jalen Phillips or a Trey Hendrickson. Those guys are going to get huge contracts, but if you really want to solve the issue, right, throw as much money as you can at it. But yeah, I think that like an avenue like that makes sense, but then I wouldn't even rule out taking another one in the second or third round. Like I know Ballard hasn't had the greatest history of drafting that position, but what's the gambler's fallacy, Jake? Like if it didn't go for you the first 10 times, that 11th time is the odds are in your favor, right? Like at some point it's got to hit in the draft. So maybe go with the gambler's fallacy there. But they just need to keep throwing bodies at the trenches. And that's what we're seeing from these teams that are winning big and winning. It's like, if you don't have the dominant quarterback, or even if you do have the dominant quarterback, you got to be able to win in the trenches. That is going to help you find a lot of success. It would be nice to have a first-round pick to address the issue off the edge, but you can still find guys outside of round one. Look at how Seattle built their pass rush, and outside of that Texas defensive tackle, who was an absolute star in the Super Bowl, he was so good. But like guys like Derek Hall, Boy Mafe, like those were second, third round guys off the edge, and then they had a lot of free agent additions in Uchenna Nwosu, DeMarcus Lawrence, and I think Leonard Williams. I think they traded for him, but they made as many additions as possible to build one of the deepest D lines in the league. I just think that you just got to keep throwing as many resources as possible at it, and when it's not working, reset and start over. They have a great chance to reset this offseason and just add as much talent as possible. So whether it's a huge swing like a Trey Hendrickson or a bunch of little swings like Ebiketie, Boy Mafe, or a handful of other these like mid-tier guys, Calevon Chasen is a free agent, like whatever that works, like just keep throwing resources at the D line and hope that this can be the solution to a decade-long problem in Indianapolis.
Now, this one is going to be a talking point until there's a resolution with him again this offseason, but Hendrickson with the Colts, he doesn't fit the younger, faster mold. I don't think you're going to have to pay $30 million for him anymore. But if you get him for like 2 years, 25 per year, would you do it? Because like he's going to make your room better. He's good, but he's a little older. He's 31 now. He's coming off core muscle surgery. But we have to talk about it because they're going to be connected, the Colts and Hendrickson, until something happens with him.
Yeah, I could live with a deal like that as long as it's not just we had Hendrickson, we have Latu, and we have JTT, and that's it. That's our whole deal, and then a bunch of scraps behind them, because relying on a player who just played, 6 games this past season to be healthy in his 30-plus-year-old season is the same issue we get in with Samson Ebukam last year, right? Very different players, obviously, but I don't like overly relying on these older players to stay 100% healthy. It's a young man's game for a reason in the NFL, and you have to build the depth. So I'm okay with Hendrickson. Again, that's a lot of money for a guy who barely played last season, but he's got a great track record. He's been a very good player for a while, so I'd be fine with it. But again, the takeaway for me when you're watching these top teams is the waves of pass rush, not just a couple guys started. Like even Houston, right, with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter, they were great. Don't get me wrong, 2 of the 5 best pass rushers in football. But having guys like Derek Barnett and was it Horton coming off the bench as well, and a couple other defensive ends that allowed them to stay fresh is what really helped that unit like get pushed over the edge. So you got to have waves and waves and waves. And if Hendrickson is like the only move, I think that would be absurd. But if you can get a Hendrickson, get a couple buy low guys, and maybe still add another draft guy in there, then I can live with that being the plan of attack. Just throw resources at D-line though. Like, please keep adding at D-line. Don't just give me like a re-sign Kwity Paye and Samson Ebukam plus a draft pick in round 4 and say that we're good, because that's just not going to be good enough.
Yeah, I think given the Colts track record and the fact that Ballard has not been able to find instant impact edges or guys who wind up developing at all, I think you have to get some veteran who you already know is productive. It doesn't have to be Hendrickson. It could be Hendrickson, but like someone who you already know has a solid reputation in the NFL. Have to do that. And then you can get a couple ascending guys or like projection guys. That's fine, but that can't be who you're relying on. That's who you have relied on for 10 years and it hasn't worked. So I'm cool with getting like the expensive guy in Hendrickson if he doesn't have to play 800 snaps this year. You know what I mean? Because like I'm kind of at the point with Buckner where it's like you maybe just play him 20 to 25 snaps a game now. Like if you want your older players to be effective, you have to rotate them with not just scrubs. Like you're going to have to rotate them with other solid players. So you're going to have to spend real money and real draft capital on that too.
Yeah. And overall, your guys' takeaway, or our takeaway at least right now when it comes to projecting this going forward, we got to see what they do this offseason, because projecting it right now feels like a fool's errand. Like what can we project with the Colts defense? I like the coaching staff. I like Latu and I like Sauce.
Yeah.
What else can I really project, though, with this defense going into next season? I think they want to play a lot of man. I think they're cool with blitzing every now and then, but it really comes down to the resources they spend this offseason and what the defense looks like. So while offense is going to be all about continuity this offseason, Colts defense is going to be about a changing of the guard and getting a lot of pieces in here to help rebuild that side of the ball. But let us know what you think in the comment section. And thanks, as always, for tuning in today to Locked On Colts. We'll be back yet again tomorrow afternoon. So make sure you subscribe to our show so you get all the latest episodes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on social medias. And if you never miss an episode, then remember, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Colts at audio ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and much more. Head to lockedoncolts.supercast.com to join the club, or follow the link in our show notes right now. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be back with you guys yet again tomorrow afternoon.